Welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode, we are joined by the Cincinnati Bengals 2021 Fan of the Year, Bengal Jim Foster. How's it going?
Hey, Houday, great, man. It's absolutely amazing here in Cincinnati right now. I'm telling you, the city has gone crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. I am a Cubs fan, so I know I was excited in 2016. I mean, talk about that excitement. Just first of all, like through this process.
Yeah, I think this year's been an amazing ride. 31 years we hadn't won a playoff game. We broke that curse against the Raiders. The coolest thing to me about that is, I have 4 boys. My oldest is 30 years old. My youngest is 20. We've never got to watch a Bengals playoff game victory together, and we were all together in that stadium when that happened. For 10 minutes, I don't think we said a word. We cried, we hugged. It's just an amazing experience right now. And you've experienced when the Cubs curse was broke. The pretty similar reaction here in Cincinnati with this playoff win against the Raiders, the first one in 31 years.
Well, yeah, and so let's kind of back it up a little bit and just talk about your first of all you becoming a Bengals fan, because I'm a Cubs fan and I grew up in Iowa, and my family, it was all in my family. Everyone was watching it and I always watched as a kid, and had a chance to go to games and stuff. So, I mean, it was part of my family, and that's kind of been a similar for you. You started out when you were younger, right?
Right. So I was about 10 years old in 1981. My family was never a football family, and I've never watched a game with my dad ever. And I just remember that year seeing the uniform change. The Bengals went from the old script Bengals across the orange helmet to the orange stripes. And I was a young, 10-year-old kid. And I'll never forget the first game I ever watched was the first game of the 1981 season when the Bengals were losing like 21-0 at halftime. Ken Anderson had an awful first half. Turk Schurter comes in and leads the Bengals back to a come behind win against the Seattle Seahawks. I've not missed a game since that first opening season in 1981. So it's been an amazing ride.
That is cool. Yeah. I mean, when you think of those young memories, I do have still a VHS of the Super Bowl Shuffle. And, I remember that. I even remember the Bengals being in the Super Bowl and just thinking, oh, that's kind of a cool team, and, obviously coming up against Joe Montana, it's tough, but I mean, they had some really good teams, with Ickey Woods and some of the other players back then.
Yeah, they were a very, for the most part of the 80s, they were a really dominant team, even when they weren't going to the playoffs. But it was a very, very good team in the 80s across the board, that entire decade.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of then move into like your story then. Obviously, having that history with the Bengals, you've been going to games. Talk about, finding out about you being the fan of the year and how that kind of came about.
Yeah, so we had been, myself and a big group of kind of diehard Bengal fans have been doing some game day interaction stuff at the stadium, filming, doing stuff they'd play in a Jumbotron to get kind of the crowd fired up. So they called me one day. It was like mid-October. Actually, they called me on October 16th. I think that was a Friday. But they said, hey, we want you to come down for an interview. We wanted to get your take on how the season's going. So I just thought it was all part of the same thing. So I get there, and they walked me down to my seat. And I knew something was a little different. There was more cameras all over the place.
Yeah.
And they sat me down, started interviewing me. And then the Jumbotron pops on. And CJ Uzama comes on, starts talking to me, announces me being a fan of the year. Then Elizabeth Blackburn and Houday, the big Bengal mascot, and some of the front office people come down with big, giant Super Bowl tickets, announced that I'm going to be ruler of the jungle, which is a new tradition this year in Cincinnati, which is really fun. I did it for the Kansas City game.
Yeah.
Just getting the crowd fired up about a minute before kickoff is all that is. And then they announced the Super Bowl tickets, and I lost it. And very emotional. Not a crier, but I cried like the biggest baby when they announced that. So, and the only bad thing about it, everybody in the world knows that I cried and they saw me cry because they blasted out all over social media when they made that announcement.
Hey, tell you what, that's not a bad thing. I still get emotional when I watch, the Cubs, winning the World Series at last out, and honestly, still when I watch the movie Rudy. So hey, it's all right. So yeah, I mean, talk about kind of that game day experience. And I noticed obviously you've been in section 158, 158. So talk about kind of the best parts of that game day experience, and then even move into the tailgate stuff that you do as well.
Yeah, I mean the game day, the Brown family has really, stepped it up on social media here the past few years. The game day experience at Paul Brown Stadium is like nothing we've ever seen here before. LED lightings, we got the Ring of Honor started, just all kinds of interacting stuff with the fans going on. So it's been a really, not just because the Bengals have been winning, but the game day experience has been a lot of fun at Paul Brown Stadium. I mean, they're doing things, even they've gone from maybe not doing hardly a whole lot of stuff on game day to probably exceeding what you're seeing in other stadiums. I've been to 28 different NFL stadiums. So the game day experience here has been a lot of fun for everybody. Then I guess the tailgate you want me to hit on, right? Yeah. So what's crazy about the tailgate is, we've been doing, it's the longest continuous running tailgate in Cincinnati football history since 1993. We even kept tailgating through COVID. We had a private lot, restricted, capacity, had a kind of a drive-in tailgate. We had the Jumbotron. We had an actual Jumbotron that we pulled up at our tailgate. So we kept tailgating through COVID responsibly, spaced, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing. All the former players that come, that attend, local politicians, media, tons of the Bengals' current family members come down and tailgate with us. And the platform, we'll have anywhere between 500 to 2,000 people. We had 2,000 people at a tailgate for the Raiders game. Kind of overwhelmed us a little bit. But the coolest thing about the platform and the show that we have called Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends is not just game day, friends and family hanging with those guys before the game, but I mean, the charity campaigns we've been running for many, many, many years. We've never raised more than $15,000 in any one given year. We're at over $56,000 right now.
Wow. The last notes that I saw was over 28,000. So wow, 56,000.
We're almost at 60. We just did a recent Super Bowl squares that we sold for $25 each, $2,500.
That's amazing.
Benefiting a local charity called Maddie's House Foundation here, where youth and teens can go as substance abuse and addiction issues that they're having. It's kind of a halfway house for them for some help. So the charities, I'm just totally taken aback. Houday Nation, extremely charitable. For us to be almost $60,000, where we had a goal of if we hit 20, would have been happy. So it's that tailgate and our Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends show on Tuesday nights. Those two platforms are the why behind the charities getting benefiting so much from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, as far as, football is one thing, but then kind of extending into the community. And do you think that, it's become so big because of the community of Cincinnati then? I mean, you've been to other venues, other, football, stadiums. Is it just different because of the community of Cincinnati?
It's interesting. You would think it's not just our local fans here in this region that are donating. We see the donations come in from across the country.
That's awesome.
And you'll be shocked that we see donations come in from Germany, Canada, England, Mexico, Sweden. So a very large chunk of it's coming from the region here. But it is amazing when we kind of look to see where the donations are coming from. It's Bengals Nation as a whole, that's for sure, internationally.
That's really cool. And something I did see, that you do, you got a states map. And do you kind of keep track of what states are missing, and talk about that how that map came about?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I want to say it was about 2018, right before the season started. Myself and my tailgate crew was like, man, we get so many people coming in from out of town. So many people coming in from across the world to watch the Bengals. We saw it over the years, but we really never been able to kind of track it and see where people. So we literally did this giant corkboard map of most of the world, the United States. So in 2018, we started the map, and basically it's when a fan comes in as tailgating with us, wherever they're coming in town from, if they're traveling from out of the state, maybe another state or city, or outside the country, they take a pin and put it in the map from the location where they flew in from or where they're living. And we're up to, I think I have this right, 42 states, and we're up to 27 different countries represented. And the three biggest quantity of out of country folks, Canada is absolutely represented very well, and especially the Toronto, Brantford, that area right there. A large amount of folks coming in from Canada. England, I think we have the 5th biggest fan base in England right now. Paul and his guys from Bengals UK do a hell of a job driving all that. And we have a huge following in Mexico. Those three right there are the biggest, but we have really good groups of people from Sweden, Spain, Germany. Brazil has a huge fan base. We got folks that fly in from Japan for the games. It is little old Cincinnati, mid to small market town. The international following from this team, people seem to be surprised, but we can show the proof and show that people are coming in town from all over the world. It's an amazing thing. NFL football is alive and well.
Absolutely is. And yeah, I got a chance to take my kids to their first NFL game. We went to the I'm a Bears fan, so I took them to the Bears Vikings game at the end of the season, and it was a great experience. I mean, obviously it was cold, so we weren't able to do the outside tailgate stuff, but it was there's just something about being at a game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you. I get people who say, well, the game day experience at home, I've got the big 50-inch flat screen TV and all the other stuff. I'm like telling you, I don't care. It is nothing beats game day. Tailgate in the stadium, the atmosphere, the friends, the family, the camaraderie. I just nothing better than being at the game, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And your actually probably best game day experience was week 17, Rule of the Jungle. I mean, I saw that Kay Adams was able to do that this year as well. And so talk about kind of what you did for that.
Yeah, so this is one of the things I got because I was fan of the year. The Bengals select me as fan of the year. So not only am I going to the Super Bowl, they literally put me as ruler of the jungle for that game against the Kansas City Chiefs here, which was the game that clinched the AFC North for the Bengals. It was just an amazing experience. I get up there. They actually brought down, there's a big giant stage on the plaza level, Paul Brown said, that looks down on a stadium, down on a crowd. And they have a stage set up there, and they have a big giant throne, a big jungle theme.
Wow.
And they brought the staff. There's a staff that you use as ruler of the jungle. They brought the staff across the street to our tailgate. Our tailgate's really close to the entrance of the stadium. So literally we walked across with the staff, the whole tailgate. I think that was the Kansas City game. There's probably 1,000 people following us up this ramp to the stadium. We get up on the stage, and it was a fun day in Cincinnati that day, upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs to win the AFC North. But the Ruler of the Jungle thing was cool. Elizabeth Blackburn, front office people were up there. Anthony Munoz was up there with me. Kind of we were talking before the Ruler actually kicked off. But it's a fun experience, but it's nothing more. But right like a minute before kickoff, where that Ruler of the Jungle leads the Who Dey chant with the rest of the stadium there. It was a fun experience. My entire family was there. The kids were there. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine just how much of a high that was just to be a part of that, and just a good experience overall. And you talked about Anthony Munoz, and just wanted to touch base on your podcast. Watching that you've had a lot of the players on. Who have been some of your most memorable player interviews in the past on there?
Yeah, so we started that podcast the night of the draft in 2020 when we couldn't go to Vegas because of COVID. I mean, that's when we picked Joe Burrow. That night of the draft, we didn't know what we were doing. We had a bunch of guests lined up, local media, sports people, a couple, Dave Lapham, some other folks. Mm-hmm. We had 2,000 people viewing live that night, and it was the first time we ever did it. Yeah. So we kept doing it every Tuesday night, but we have interviewed what we call a lot of Bengal OGs from the 70s that played with the Bengals in the 70s, the Pat McAnally's, the Archie Griffins, there's so many
Chris
names.
Collinsworth I saw on there.
Collinsworth on there. Tons of former Bengal players. Pete Johnson, Ken Anderson, Anthony Munoz, Max Montoya. The list goes on and on and on. It's been an amazing ride. Even current players have been on there. We've had Dave Baker, who was formerly president of the Football Hall of Fame, we had on. I'll tell you, there's been one of the I'm going to give you two answers to that if it's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
A couple weeks ago, after the Bengals won the playoff game against the Raiders, the first one in 31 years, we decided to cancel the guest we had lined up. It was an actual former player. And we just opened it up to the fans. We sent the link out.
Yeah.
You know how StreamYard works. You can put up to 10 people in a waiting room at a time.
Oh,
we went a solid hour. We still had 10 people in the room. We just had to cut it off. I think that was one of my more favorite ones, just because to hear the raw emotion of people's reactions, even a couple days after the game. There was people talking about, hey, my dad passed away earlier in the year. He always said when he passed away, the Bengals were going to win a Super Bowl and they were going to win their first playoff game. So there was a lot of emotion on that show. To hear everybody's stories was just heartwarming, just an amazing show. That was one of my favorites. And the other one that I would tell you that was one of my favorites is we did a Super Bowl 16 special. And we invited 8 former players who played on that 81 Super Bowl team to come on the screen at one time. And it was the most fun 2 hours because those guys won't stop yapping.
Yeah.
Fun 2 hours. The stories that we've heard before and the stories they shared that nobody had heard before. It was Chris Collinsworth, Anthony Munoz, Ken Anderson, Reggie Williams, Pat McAnally, forgetting some folks here, Pete Johnson. We had them all on the screen at one time, and I thoroughly enjoyed that show, just sitting back. We just kind of steered them, went through the season, talked about different games, played some film highlights, and we went all the way to the Super Bowl and talking that night. And that was probably one of the more memorable ones. But that Super Bowl 16 special with Chris Collinsworth, Ken Anderson, and all those Bengal legends. Dave Lapham was with us that night as well. And that fan show just a few weeks ago that we just let the fans come on the screen and tell their stories was probably the 2 most amazing shows I've ever watched. It was so fun. I rewatched those 2 multiple times because it was just so fun.
It is cool when they peel the layers back and you see some of those stories, and I love it. I could talk about football, and it's so interesting, like all the emotions that like football and your team kind of can bring about. And so talk about your emotions then during that AFC Championship game, because it was back. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, I tell you, this is really hard to explain. You being a Cubs fan probably went through these same emotions, but 31 years, the Cincinnati Bengals hadn't won a playoff game. I think it was the longest stretch in NFL history, if I'm not mistaken. This fan base has been so supported this team through thick and thin during the decade of the 90s, the worst decade ever.
Right.
I can't even – I kind of get a little teary-eyed thinking about it, because to have all of my kids there, for us to experience a playoff win together, and the hugs and crying, we cried till we couldn't cry anymore. That will be one of the best football moments of my life. I know it was just a playoff win.
Yeah.
But 31 years of just weight lifted off our shoulders as a city. 31 years, my kids got to experience this. And the biggest thing is that I love, I enjoyed every minute of it, but truly from the bottom of my heart, I will tell you, I am more happy that so many Bengal fans got to experience, or are experiencing right now, what I experienced in 1981 and 1988. There's nothing that brings this city together like the Cincinnati Bengals when they're on a playoff or Super Bowl run. This city has never been more united in my life than it is right now. But those emotions that night, that game against the Raiders to win that first playoff game was pretty special. Then we get into the Bengals have never won a road playoff game in 50 plus years of history. So we go on the road to Nashville. We beat Nashville.
That was a tough game too.
Oh man, Nashville's defense is really good. Their defensive line it was amazing. And then we go on the road, and no chance in hell we should beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, right?
Mm-hmm.
We win again, and we're in the Super Bowl. This is all a dream right now. I'm just waiting for me to wake up from a coma or something, and my wife's going to tell me, yeah, you've been out in a coma for the last couple months. I've been on cloud 9 for weeks right now, and we're going to the Super Bowl, and it still hasn't sunk in.
Right.
And the thing I love about this city right now, I've never seen young and old, everybody, doesn't matter, black or white, young or old, or where you're from. You're hugging and giving everybody high fives in the supermarket. You're walking down the street. It is out of control. I have never seen it like this in Cincinnati. It's bringing the city together. And the Super Bowl, the cool thing about the team, there's games they should never have won this year. But they're just gritty, resilient. They find ways to win. And I'll tell you what, that starts with the Bengals coaching staff. And that starts with the players. And that starts with the leadership of Joe Burrow, because this guy gets sacked 9 times in Nashville. And every time he gets sacked, he threw the ball down. He's moving on to the next play. Forget about it. He's not getting anybody's face for not blocking. They just move on. You can't control what happened in the past. Let's just fix it and move forward. And this team has been really fun to watch.
Well, yeah, you talk about the coaching staff as well with Zach Taylor. Just, the idea of then taking the ball to the local bars. I think that was, just really showed like his awareness of how much, it means to the city.
Yeah, this is a big thing in Cincinnati. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the bars, I think it was Mount Lookout Tavern, was one of the first bars to get one of these footballs. And the pride there. So my wife and I, they wanted us to bring the Bengal bus up. That following week, they had come take a picture with the football at the bar, right? They had a line out the door going down the street just so people could get a picture of that ball. Very classy, very smart move by Zach Taylor and the Bengals organization. Mending fences over the years of all these losing years and non-playoff winning years. They're building things back up here, and that was a great touch by the organization. They went out and did it again after every one of the playoff games, picking different bars in different areas around the city.
That was smart, and I know all too well about that. After the Cubs won the World Series, they traveled around with the trophy, and I waited for hours, in a line at like a VFW in small town Illinois. I drove a couple, hour and a half just to go see it, just to get a picture with the trophy, and footballs. Baseball, like sports, just it means something to people, and just to have be that close to something or be a part of something, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the videos. I know a local newspaper here, the Cincinnati Enquirer, put 3 or 4 minutes worth of videos together of fan reactions after the AFC Championship win.
I did.
And if you don't think sports mean stuff to anybody, to individuals, they're nuts. They are. The emotions and the crying, the reactions, and man, it was deep, man. You cannot watch that video without getting a little teary-eyed, getting goosebumps, no matter what kind of fan you are, because that reaction is a fan reaction, not just a Cincinnati Bengals fan reaction. It was a really cool thing to see, and I've watched that video so many damn times.
I agree. Yeah, I did get emotional watching that as well. And, talking about, like coming up, I can't imagine your emotions and your excitement. When do you leave for, your trip to the Super Bowl and everything, and talk about what you're most excited about?
Man, you just open up a can here. Let me tell you. So my wife and I the Bengals are flying us out Tuesday. So we'll be out there Tuesday through Monday. And there's an itinerary of things going on all week. To kick off the week here in Cincinnati, they've got a pep rally.
Cool.
So there's like 30,000 tickets not sold. 30,000 people will be there, maxing out at 30 in the stadium. Players, team, city officials, myself, and a local comedian named Gary Owens are hosting the pep rally Monday. So
wow,
kicking off Super Bowl week, I'm hosting. I've never hosted anything in my life, so I got to go down Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and do rehearsal and all that stuff. So I'm so excited about that. But then we leave Tuesday, and there is an NFL honors that they do. We are going to be present for that in that venue. I can't wait for that. And I think during that time too, they are going to announce of the 32 fans of the year, who is the ultimate fan of the year. I have no idea what their criteria is. I really don't care at the end of the day. I'm going to the Super Bowl and experiencing Super Bowl week. But I did get a call. I think I look forward to that NFL honors event that night, because we've got seats for that and we're going to be involved in that. But I literally just got a call Wednesday night. Saturday. It was Thursday. NFL Network a Good Morning Football calls and says, "Hey, we want you in studio Friday morning at 5 a.m."
Wow.
So I want to be in studio with Kay Adams and the crew. That's West Coast time, so that'd be
Yeah.
more 8 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to be on set in studio with Good Morning Football. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. They haven't told me yet, but they're sending somebody to pick us up at like 4:15 a.m. We got to be in studio by 5. So I think I might be looking forward to the NFL Honors event and that the Friday morning Good Morning Football the most. Now,
Oh, absolutely.
outside of game day, obviously, and we do have a huge event Saturday. We can't tailgate. We have massive tailgates here in Cincinnati and everywhere we go. But we have Saturday from 5 to 9. We have a brewery with some pretty big space. We posted because we have to rent out the facility and rent out a parking lot, so we have inside and outside room for people. It's like we sold 750 tickets in less than 5 hours. Wow. So the venue is sold out. So we're trying to free up some more space. I'm looking forward to that tailgate experience that we do at a brewery. I'm looking forward to that because there's going to be Bengal fans from all over the world that are trying to get together. We're trying to get that to at least 1,200. So we're going to talk about that. But and then the game day on Sunday, I'm on a game day. Usually we're out there really early tailgating. We're not allowed tailgating out there at game day. So I'm going to be in there as soon as that stadium opens Sunday.
Got to soak it all in.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know where your seats are then, right?
Yeah, like the lower 300 levels. I think you have a 1, 2, 3. I think there's a third. I think there's even a 500 level. So we'll be sitting in the 300 level.
And had you ever been to that stadium before?
No, it's funny. I've been to call it 29 different NFL stadiums now, and this will be a new one for me.
Yeah.
So,
I can't imagine, just, being going to the Super Bowl, number one, but all this, leading up to it, it's going to be an amazing week. I watch Good Morning Football every day. And obviously Kay Adams and the whole crew they're amazing.
Kay Adams is a public icon here in Cincinnati. They absolutely love Kay. When she came to town to be ruler of the jungle one week, like literally she came to the tailgate. She was pounding beers with us. She was doing shots. She's a party animal, and she was a lot of fun, man. She's awesome. So she will be joining us at our Saturday tailgate, and I'll be able to see her in person Friday as well on set. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a good time.
In talking about the Super Bowl, if they win, what will that mean to Cincinnati?
That would be the Bengals' first Super Bowl championship. That happens. I can't begin to tell you, this city has been starved. Like I can't even begin to explain to people for a winner. And there will be parties for days in Cincinnati. I can't wait for the parade if that happens. It means a lot for a lot of different reasons. We've had COVID. We've been locked up. We haven't had a winning football team in years. We haven't had a playoff win in 31. We haven't been to the Super Bowl since 88, 89. This city loves its football, and it means a hell of a lot to this city. It really does. The NFL doesn't probably particularly like the mid to small market teams being in the Super Bowl. We understand that from a rating perspective. But one of the two of the top 5 most watched Super Bowls in NFL history are the Bengals versus 49ers. That 81 Super Bowl, I think, was still the most viewed, if I'm not mistaken. But
interesting. Yeah. To me, I like to see different teams in there. And, obviously the Chiefs are an entertaining team, but they've been there before. And the Bengals, and when you talk about storylines, I remember like I interviewed the women from the Tigress talk pod prior, and they said they wanted it to be a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl. Obviously that didn't happen, but the Bengals, they really, it is a small market, but it really is drawing national attention. And Joe Burrow is really he's just become that guy that everybody wants to watch.
Yeah, we got to keep him healthy because he's the next 10 to 15 years. This guy, all those things that the draft pundits would always, doesn't have the strongest arm, not the fastest. All of it's true, but what they don't measure and what they can't tell is his his leadership ability, his football IQ is off the charts. He's smart. I mean, this is his first full year at quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even play half a year last year before he got hurt. Played half. So this is his first full year. And you talking about win or lose, during Super Bowl Sunday, there's going to be free agents that want to play for this guy and this team because it's a very young team. This defense, they've dumped $200 million in free agency over the past couple of years, most of that on defense, and it's paid off with some of these guys. And offensively, with those weapons and Joe Burrow at quarterback, let's just secure that offensive line. I got a feeling there's going to be a couple free agents here that absolutely want to come here and play for this guy, this quarterback.
And there's a lot of cap room too, I believe the Bengals have, right?
Yeah, the Bengals have a lot of people to re-sign. It's an astronomical amount of players they need to re-sign, so that's going to be their first priority. There's going to be a third year in a row of aggressiveness in free agency, and I got a feeling it's going to be geared towards that offensive line and maybe linebacker area.
So, obviously this is, I hesitate to say golden era because, the 80s really were kind of a golden era of the Bengals football. There's a lot to kind of look forward to. But kind of, I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of talk about, some of those down years. Do you have like some of the toughest memory moments and that over the years and maybe how because of that, like, why this kind of experience means so much?
And I thought this was going to be a positive show, damn it. I get it. That's why this is so much sweeter right now, too, because not just the young fans that didn't get like the down times. It was the dark ages of Cincinnati football in the 90s. I'm talking Achilles Smith, David Klingler. It was just one bad draft after another.
Mm-hmm.
Free agents didn't want to come here. It was a nightmare. There's a few bright spots there with Jeff Blake and Carl Pickens and Corey Dillon there in the 90s. But, I think we went 10, 11 years without a winning season. That is the longest stretch, and I could be wrong on this, but I thought I've done some I think it's the longest stretch of losing years in football history. So if anybody, those dark years, there were people that decided I'm done. I'm done. Everybody, this is not just Bengal fans. Every fan has a breaking point. When you lose year after year after year, and there doesn't seem to be hope in the future, it wears on people over time. And different people have different breaking points. Right. I obviously don't have one because I feel like the Cubs fans during that long stretch, people would question the Cubs fans. You guys are stupid for rooting for the Cubs because they don't win. We got that all the time. And it was a rough stretch in the 90s, but never once did my support for this team in this city wane. If this is my city, this is my team, I will support them thick and thin. As rough as it was, there was times where we didn't want to leave the tailgate to go in the game because we knew the game was going to be over with by mid-first quarter. Mm-hmm. But we were there, and that's what makes it sweeter for the folks that have actually been through that decade of the 90s and early 2000s. If anybody makes it through there, they're a lifelong fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is about football, but a lot of it is that community, and it seems like, you've kind of, built that community over years. And did you so you've always kind of been in the same section then? And do you kind of have some of those, people that have been there throughout?
It's really cool. We've started on social media a few years ago, just kind of battling between sections on section 158,
Yeah,
and we keep pumping that up. And there's a group of us that have been there since Paul Brown Stadium has opened.
Uh-huh.
And there's a sense of community and family there. People I don't see outside of game days that we know their names, we know their kids' names, we know what's going on in their lives. That sense of community and family in 158 is really, really strong. And I love it. And we're starting to build on that community, not just in 158, but the Bengals started this thing in Canopy Crazies, in the upper deck corners. And so there's giant communities up there now kind of talking a little trash of, hey, Canopy Crazies are the best, going back and forth between sections and social media. And this team, it's good to get people back on board. The future looks bright. And 158's been fun. And it's just been so cool to see. We have people that sit in front of us from Toledo. We have people that sit in front of us from Tennessee. These people from Pennsylvania, Indiana, Michigan, these people all sit in 158 with us. and we know each other like our own families. It's a fun experience.
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. I definitely appreciate you taking your time. You've got a busy week. Where can everyone find you again?
So we have 3 social media platforms. On Twitter is our biggest following right now. It's at Bengal Jims with an S _ BTR, which stands before the roar. And it's just a Bengal Jims before the roar tailgate on Instagram and Facebook. But I appreciate you having me on, man. This has been fun. I love talking Bengals football with you. And for a minute there, I didn't see that mic cover, and I thought that was a Pittsburgh Steelers or City near West Virginia, as we call them, shirt. But then I seen that Hawkeye when you moved away from your mic there. So for a minute, I was getting a log out when I saw your shirt.
Well, I guess you brought that up. I should ask. I asked the ladies on the Tigers Talk. What are your thoughts on Big Ben's retirement? Then
I'm upset he's retiring. Real, I was hoping the Steelers were signing to a 5-year deal, new 5-year deal. We're going to miss Ben. We've been beating him up the last couple of years.
Yeah, the way he's been playing, and they were not big fans of him, and I get it. That's been a pretty big rivalry. And honestly, I was going to say in the '90s, I am a Bears fan. The Bears stunk in the '90s, so the Steelers were my team in the '90s. So you got with some of the Bam Morris and just some of those Super Bowl teams and
Jerome Bettis, those guys
Jerome
ran
Bettis,
over. Those guys ran over for a long time.
Yeah.
That's why it feels so good to have their number the past couple of years.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, and obviously, good luck. Next week it's going to be amazing, and I'm definitely going to be watching Good Morning Football. So,
hey man, we appreciate it, man. Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. Hey, Bears get their stuff together next year, man. Let's go Bears Bengals Super Bowl matchup. That'd be fun.
Hey, and I was gonna one more thing too. The Bears did beat the Bengals, so
I was there. I was there for it.
I feel like I'm kind of there in spirit with you. So
yeah. So when we win the Super Bowl, you guys say, "Hey, we should have been there. We beat the Bengals." That's what I would be doing.
Exactly. I'll give you one.
Safer. It's been a fun year.
I'll give you one last Who Day.
Hey, Cincinnati, we love you guys. Who Day. See you in the Super Bowl, baby. Who Day. Thanks, buddy.